Hey, what's up guys? This is Anthony from Anthony's Customs, and for this review, we are looking at the Axytoys Dinosaur Battlefield Axy009 Ceratosaurus Leader. The white skin version, it says so right there. And they sent this to me as a review sample since you guys liked to see the first one that I reviewed, the big guy, the big T-Rex looking dude. And I have to say, I think this one might be even more impressive. I like it a whole bunch. There's a whole lot to like about it. There are some things that are definitely not my cup of tea. We're going to talk about all of that, and you guys will have all the information you need to decide if you want to get one. If you do want to get one, there is a link in the description below at Big Bad Toy Store. They're only $70, which for those of you who have been collecting for a long time, that sounds like a lot, but considering everything you get here, it's not even close to a lot. It's an incredible bargain. So again, if you want to check it out, there's a link in the description below directly to this figure if you want to get one. Okay, so lots to talk about here, so let's go ahead and get this guy off the stand and take a closer look. Okay, before we look at the figure, I do want to show you my package. It is their standard packaging, sort of. I guess it's standard. I don't know. They haven't been around that long, so I don't know how standard it is, but it's a nice package, let's put it that way. It has the nice printing on the front, the two different color versions of the same guy. So you have the orange version, I don't know if it's actually called orange, and then you have the white version, which actually has the redder face. Mine was smashed to bits because it was opened up in customs, so thanks to the customs people for that. But there you go, you get some images there. It's very similar to a NECA style package. Then you get the flap in the window. You know, good info there. All right, good packaging, I like it. All right, and so like I mentioned, $70 sounds kind of like a lot, but just wait until we get into this. The amount of figure you get for $70 is straight up crazy if you ask me. All right, so let's go ahead and do a height measurement. I'm just gonna go to like here, the top of his head, not his horn and stuff, because that's all just helmet accoutrement. That's French for stuff. It's 19 centimeters roughly to the top of his head in a fairly neutral pose. That's gonna be about 7, let's call it 7 5/8 inches. The other guy was like 10 or 11 inches, a lot bigger. So this one is a lot smaller, but I actually do think I like it more. Let's do some quick size comparisons. Of course, Darwin is not prepared. He is never prepared. I don't even know why I keep him on the payroll. All right, so there he is up against a Marvel Legends figure. I think that's actually a good size given a dinosaur type person. A little big, but not like huge. And then here he is up against Batman. You could still definitely make that work. That's a McFarlane figure. And then here we have Marvel Select. Those are like the three main scales that we have going on right now. And even then, really, you could make it work, but that does make the dinosaur guy look a little bit wimpy. Okay, question of the day. How much is too much when it comes to accessories? And I don't mean it like, oh, it's a bad thing it came with too much stuff. Just how much do you need to feel satisfied? That's not gonna go there. Okay, so for me, it's like the more the better always. It never hurts to have more. Other than when you consider the fact that it's taking budget from other things. Now, in this particular case, I'm still in the middle of the question, by the way. In this particular case, I don't think there's any taking away from other things. They have everything you could want in an action figure and an incredible amount of accessories. But that's why I'm asking, is like, how much do you need to be happy with your figure? To me, it's like, okay, it's awesome to have all the cool extra stuff, but I'm almost never gonna touch it. So, generally speaking, I'm not that into the accessories as long as I have everything I need to do what I need to be able to do with that particular character, and then maybe a couple extras. I don't know, it's a very subjective thing, so let me know what you guys think. Okay, so let's go ahead and talk about this guy. Two things stood out to me at first when I opened the package, other than the fact that I had to put all of this gear, or at least most of it, on him. The first thing is, damn, that muscle sculpt looks nice. And why can't our superheroes have those sculpts? We'll get to that more when I take all of his armor off. So yeah, the sculpt stood out to me immediately, looks incredible. And then the second thing is, it does have some soft goods. It has this pelt type thing going on down here and on the sides, and that is just really not my thing. I just couldn't be less interested in something like that. I almost always prefer cloth, prefer plastic. Same thing with this. It has that kind of crunchy material for the cape. It's definitely fine. It's a personal preference sort of thing. I don't like this stiffer material. It is wired, so you can pose it around, and we'll talk about that later. It's nicely done, but I don't mind the cape as much. But this pelt thing, I don't care for this kind of stuff, and that's just purely subjective, personal stuff. They did it well. Okay, so those are the things that stood out. The other thing that stood out is, holy macaroni, they included a lot of stuff for the price point. let's go ahead and talk about the aesthetic so that I can get all this gear off of him. You have an incredible amount of customizability with these figures, and this is going to kind of play into the accessories. I'll show you them in a second individually. I'm just going to use their image because it's way easier than trying to show everything on camera effectively. Everything on here is modular and removable and changeable. All the little spikes, I shouldn't say all, because like these ones right here are connected permanently, but all of the other spikes, like almost every single spike and thing, is interchangeable and customizable. You can pop them out, you can swap them around. Obviously you have different sizes, so like this little one here, this little hook, can't be exchanged for a big spike, but generally speaking, you can swap things around till your heart's content, and it's just really, really cool. Even the shoulder pads, you can pop this part off, or you can pop this part off, or you can pop this thing off, or anything you want to do, you can interchange, mix them around, do whatever you want to do. I think that's really, really cool. You can customize these guys a lot, and that's because they've given you so much in the package, and it all looks really good. Sure, you do get ports left behind when you're not using some things. You could probably hide them with some other accessories. Sometimes you can't, but I think it's a decent trade-off if that's what you're going for, and that is clearly what they're going for. You just get baggies of little bits to connect to your guy, and it's pretty darn cool. And aesthetically speaking, it looks awesome. The only gripe I have for this really is for being the white skin version of this guy, and the white part looks awesome. It's got like that pinkish, tannish shading to it. It looks really, really good. I don't know why his face is so red. It stands out just a little bit weird to me, but I don't know. Maybe that's a Dinosaur thing. Maybe that's just the guy who made it preference sort of thing. I don't know. To me, that's weird looking because the orange one doesn't have that distinction like this guy does. I don't know what's going on there. That's the only thing that really bothers me about the coloring or the paint. Otherwise, this thing is incredible. The paint detail, the sculpt detail, it looks really, really good. So I'm going to give the aesthetic a 9.8 out of 10. For $70, there's an incredible amount of paint on here, and to hear Hasbro talk about it, this should cost about $6,000 based on the paint and sculpt and accessories. So yeah, it's an absolutely gorgeous figure. Now, as far as the accessories go, I'm not going to pop off every little bit on camera and show it to you because that's not going to be an effective way for me to actually show you this stuff. I'll show you their images because that lays it out perfectly, and you can see everything. It's all fully removable. But I do want to show you the actual accessories. So we do get his small knife dagger. It's not really a dagger. I guess it kind of is. A smaller sword. You get that. And then you get this large axe. That's very nicely done. Looks very good. And then you get a giant shield, which looks really good. You can throw some spikes on there. And there's a little bit of interchangeability there too. And then for hands, you get 3 total gripping hands. 2 of the smaller ones, one of the bigger ones, and then 1 open hand. That's a ton of stuff. Like, that's a reasonable amount of accessories if you aren't counting all of the armor and everything that's interchangeable. If you are, then it's just a crazy, crazy amount of accessories with all the doodads and dangly bobs and things like that. All right, and then the last thing you get is this like character card type thing with a photo of these guys and then some info on the back. That kind of stuff doesn't really do much for me, but if you like it, then hey, you get that. So yeah, tons and tons of accessories, and I have to get this guy stripped down naked so I can show you the articulation, which of course will have some limitation with everything on him, but with everything off of him, we can show you the body. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. Alrighty, I've got him fully naked now so I can show you the articulation. Obviously, I have to note that he is significantly less imposing without his clothes on, but I think that's true for most of us. We can appreciate that. Alright, let's start with the paint. I think the paint is really, really good. 3 things to note. One, as I already mentioned, the head being red. That's a creative choice, and I guess you might love it. I personally don't like the change in the body, and I don't know how common that sort of thing would be in nature, where you have a very clear pattern everywhere except for the head. It's kind of weird, but whatever. The other thing is I love the main body. It looks great. The way they have the different, like the tans and whitish cream colors all blended together to look very good. I like that. It's not a perfect match from chest to from each section. Like, they're clearly painted separately and then put together. So that's not ideal, but it does look really good otherwise. And then you have all of the striations and things that really bring him to life. Looks awesome. The sculpt complements that very well. So that's good. The claws and things are painted nicely. A little bit of sheen to them. That's good. Then the other thing I noticed is just the hips. The hips are clearly just, they feel like palm. They might be nylon, I don't know. Either way, they're a hard, shiny plastic with no texture and no paint, because you can't really paint it. And so they'd look a little bit goofy for sure. Obviously that's going to be hidden if you're going to have any clothes on him, and if you're going to have him naked, presumably you would have him naked and posed, and so you won't notice the hips too much. But if you're going to stand him just like this naked for some reason, the hips are going to look goofy. But otherwise it looks really, really good. I think it's a wonderful sculpt. I love the musculature on this guy. It's like people always talk about Hasbro giving them excuses for things. Why can't the muscles look good on their characters, on their superheroes? Why did their superheroes and villains and all the comic book characters not have any muscle definition? I mean, it's true for McFarlane also, even as Batman. Batman's drawn to be ripped like this, like 99% of the time, yet we get this frumpy looking doofus over here. Why can't we have good musculature on our superheroes and our villains and our comic book characters? This is great. Look how muscular and powerful he looks because they actually put some meat on his bones. Literally. It looks so much better because of it. Great sculpt work. I love it. So yeah, that looks great. Okay, but now we're supposed to be doing the articulation, so let's go ahead and do the articulation. One questionable thing so far, and we'll get to that in just a second. The hinge is jawed, so you do get that. A nice jaw hinge, that's nice. I like it, tucks in nicely, that's good. Tongue doesn't move, I personally don't mind that, you don't really need it to. So you have some ball pegs going on up here to move the head around on top of the neck. That works pretty well, no problems there. And then you get another joint down here, which works okay. And this is the thing I have an issue with. If they had cut out the torso to fit the neck inside the torso rather than on top, you'd have better range. And arguably it would look better. So that's a little bit questionable. He still has decent range though, thanks to that long skinny neck, which again is a creative choice, not one that I probably would have done. I probably would have shortened it up a little bit, but that's just a personal preference sort of thing. It poses just fine. You should be A-okay. For the shoulders, they are connected on a ball peg. That's really just a matter of design. It doesn't actually do much for articulation. But you do get your full rotation, of course, and then your hinge works nicely. Very, very nice ball hinge. And if you do them right, people like to say, well, that's not how the shoulder works in real life. And when you raise your arm, it needs to be done like a Revoltech figure and everything else. I'm like, yeah, technically, maybe, kind of, but also not really. If you put the hinge in the right spot, the arm looks good neutral and up because it raises the arm up. And it looks fine. It looks really, really good on this guy, and you can get really good range out of it, and they did a great job with that. Bicep swivel is fine. It gets a little bit gappy due to the sculpt, but that's okay. They went for a better sculpt. I can give that to them. Single jointed elbow, so you're going to go straight that way, and then you're going to get about 90 degrees, just shy of that, going that way, so it definitely could have a little bit more range. You do get some rotation out of that as well if you want it. Ball hinge wrists, they work nice. Have to also mention, the joints on this guy feel great. No stuck joints so far, nothing too loose. We'll see if that holds up as we keep going, but man, I just love this sculpt. Like, why can't our comic book characters have muscles? It looks so much better than not. All right, let's see what we have going on here. Torso looks like it's a double ball peg, yep. Leans forward, not great. Leans back okay. Definitely could be better, but it's not bad by any means. Could be a little tighter too, but it's not bad. That's a decent diaphragm joint for sure. You get another ball peg down here, which is a great pairing. That's a great way to do torso articulation. If they did it right, you should get plenty of range. Let's see. You get very little range. I think it's because they sunk the hips up so high into it, which is fine. Like, they're trying to keep it seamless. But when you do that, you end up with very little extra range up here. So it's there, but it's not as good as it could be. He's fairly stiff in the torso despite... Well, it's not even fairly stiff. It's just not as good as it could be. It's pretty solid though. It goes back nicely. It doesn't go forward too much, but enough. And then side to side is okay. Yeah, it's fine. It's not great, but it's fine. I'll take it. All right, then for the hips, big old ball sockets. And they actually feel pretty good. Good range out to the side, no problem there. Going forward, almost horizontal. It's not bad. Could be a little bit better. Obviously, you get your thigh swivel on that socket and at the actual thigh swivel, so that's good. Knees are just like the elbows. Single joint, not quite 90 degrees. You're going to get some rotation out of it, but whatever. Not my favorite type of joint, but they're okay. And then for the ankles, it's your standard hinge, swivel hinge, which gives you really good range forward and back, and then a really solid ankle rocker. I don't care for the style of foot they went with. These guys should be digitigrade, if you ask me. Being plantigrade is weird looking on a dinosaur, so that's really strange. aesthetically, but functionally it works okay. And then lastly, we have the tail. It still has that same kind of hinge as before. It's not floppy like the last one, but I'm not sure if that really serves much purpose. It is a wired tail, but it's sculpted and it's fairly thick plastic with fairly thin wire, so you're not getting a whole lot out of it. Just slight adjustments, but it will work as a tripod to keep him balanced. Okay, I just want to take a quick minute to take a look at the cape. It is nicely made quality-wise. You can see all the little tatters and things. It's not fraying or anything like that. It does look a little bit produced as opposed to like having natural tears. You know, you can see the jagged edge. Can we focus, camera? The solid black material's throwing it off. It looks synthetic, which obviously it is. It's not really tattered and torn. I don't think that's going to matter too much when you have it posed, but you do get this wrinkling that happens with this material, which I don't personally care for. That's why I always like to use spandex, at least a spandex blend when I'm making soft goods. It doesn't really wrinkle and it doesn't fray too much. This stuff looks okay. It is wired, but since it just hangs on him, it doesn't actually connect anywhere. The wiring is not going to be that effective. So like, it's good on them for doing the shading, the dirtiness, the artificial tearing. It's a choice. I don't hate it. Like I said, once it's posed, you're probably not going to notice it, but it does look a little bit like you went at it with some craft scissors rather than being actually torn up. So it could be better, but certainly not bad. And it's mostly just going to be hanging off the back of the figure anyway, because you can't do that much with the wiring. So it's fine. It's not impressive or bad. It's just fine. Yeah, not bad articulation at all. I would say it's fairly standard. There's nothing special going on here. Nothing. Let me think. Is there anything bad about it? No, I don't think so. Just nothing really standout-ish as being great. So articulation's gonna get a 7. It's fine. It's perfectly fine. But I'll tell you what, you put some pants on him, a little bit of pants, and he's looking good. I love that muscular sculpt. It's so good. It's so not wimpy. These guys don't look muscular. Like, especially one like Darwin. He's not supposed to be the most muscular, but still. Goodness. There's no reason. It doesn't cost more to sculpt things better unless you have to just pay a better sculptor. But that's the kind of thing you have to do if you're making action figures. The sculpt on this thing is just so nice, and then that paint really brings it to life. Okay, so I'm going to give this guy a final rating of... Well, it was going to be a lot higher, but then I realized he couldn't hold his weapons very well, so I was going to give it like a 9.8 or something like that. I'm going to knock it down to... I'm going to say 9.5. It's still really good, and you can throw some sticky tack in there to get the weapons to stay in place on his hands. Like, it's definitely a nuisance, and it's annoying that that's the case, but that's not that big of a trade-off given how good the rest of the figure is. So yeah, I'm going to stick with 9.5 out of 10. Yeah, there's room for improvement here and there, guys, but this thing is, if you're into this sort of thing, a sure bet, a definite pickup. It's easily worth the price. Obviously, it's not an established IP, and so there's that kind of thing to consider, and if you don't care about dinosaur men walking around in clothes, that might not be your cup of tea. That's fine, that's totally up to you, but strictly value per dollar, this is hard to beat. You're getting a crap load of stuff, and plastic, and paint, and sculpt for your money. I love this thing, and again, there's a link in the description below if you want to check it out. So there it is, guys. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please do give it a thumbs up. If you didn't, give it a thumbs down. And if you haven't subscribed, you should. I have new videos almost every single day and thousands already on the channel. So make sure you come back for all of that. And in the meantime, keep collecting.